I unintentionally won the alien queen's heart. Now there's no escape. Yet here he was, hurtling toward the planet Vierlia in the sleek human shuttle Odyssey, staring at the swirling green and blue planet below. He had been chosen as a technical advisor, someone who could explain human technology and engineering. It was supposed to be a safe, low-risk mission. Instead, he had a sinking feeling that nothing on Vierlia would be simple. The shuttle's landing was smooth. The Vierlian Palace, an enormous structure of shimmering crystal towers and floating platforms, loomed before them. Eli couldn't stop staring. The palace looked alive, almost like it breathed with the wind and reflected light in colors he couldn't name. The Zorathians, Vierlia's native species, were known across the galaxy for their elegance, their intelligence, and most intimidatingly, their strict customs. Eli had read every briefing, every cultural note, every warning about showing respect in exactly the right way. Yet staring at the palace gates, he felt a familiar flutter of doubt. Humans were clever, yes, but clever didn't always mean careful. A small team of Zorathian attendants met them at the landing pad. Tall, slender beings with pale violet skin and luminous eyes, they moved with an effortless grace that made humans feel clumsy just by comparison. Eli smiled nervously as he stepped out. One of the attendants, whose name he later learned was Lareth, inclined his head politely and said in perfect galactic common, "Welcome, human. The Queen awaits your presence. Follow me." Eli followed, trying not to trip on the smooth, crystal walkway. He had imagined first contact with a queen in countless books and movies, always glamorous and terrifying. But seeing Queen Seralith's chamber from afar, Eli realized he hadn't imagined anything close to reality. The room was vast, stretching upward like a cathedral. Light shimmered off the walls, creating moving patterns across the floor. At the far end, on a throne that seemed to float slightly above the ground, sat Queen Seralith. She was breathtaking. Not in a human way, tall, graceful, with violet skin that shimmered faintly, but in a way that seemed otherworldly, like she had been carved from light itself. Her eyes, large and luminous, fixed on Eli as if she could see every thought racing through his mind. "Human Eli Turner, welcome to Vierlia," her voice rang in his mind, not spoken aloud, but somehow transmitted directly. Eli froze. He had read about the telepathic abilities of Zorathians, but hearing them firsthand was like feeling the air vibrate against your skin. Thank you, Your Majesty," Eli said, bowing slightly. He felt awkward and small in the grand room. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly, studying him. "I see you bring knowledge of your people's machines. That is promising." Eli relaxed a tiny bit. He could handle technical questions. He had studied human and alien engineering for years. But as he stepped forward to show respect, he tripped over a small platform edge and instinctively reached out to steady himself. What happened next would change his life. In his panic, Eli grasped the golden amulet hanging around the Queen's neck, not realizing its significance. It was a symbol of loyalty and devotion, something no one dared touch except in a formal pledge. The moment his fingers brushed the amulet, a warm, glowing light enveloped them both. Eli froze, unsure what had just happened. Queen Seralith's eyes widened, not in anger but in delight. She tilted her head and smiled. "You understand our gesture," she said, almost in a whisper. Eli blinked. I was just trying not to fall," he stammered. Her laugh was soft, musical, and terrifying at the same time. "No human has ever performed it by accident. You have won my heart, Eli Turner." "That was your intention, was it not?" Eli's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "I what?" "You are now under my protection," she said, rising from her throne. The floor seemed to shift beneath her feet, lifting her slightly as she floated toward him. "No harm will come to you while you remain close. You are mine to guard and guide." Eli stumbled backward, shaking his head. "Wait, I didn't mean..." But it was too late. The palace security closed in immediately, surrounding him with silent precision. The attendant smiled politely but firmly blocked any attempt to leave. Eli realized with a sinking feeling that this was not a polite suggestion. He was trapped. For the next few hours, Eli was shown to a guest chamber, not a prison but not quite a hotel. The room was elegant, filled with soft lights and furniture that seemed almost alive, and yet he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every few minutes an attendant appeared to check on him, bringing food, water, or simply standing silently to make sure he did not attempt escape. Later that evening, Queen Seralith herself visited. Eli tried to stand and bow, but his legs were stiff from tension. Your Majesty," he said, "I did not mean any of this. It was an accident." The queen smiled again, but it was the kind of smile that made his stomach twist. "Accidents can be meaningful," she said. "In my eyes, your courage and spontaneity are rare. They are valued." Eli sat down heavily on the soft couch, trying to process everything. He had gone to Virlia thinking he would be a simple technical consultant. Now he was entangled in something far beyond anything he had imagined. One mistake, a clumsy gesture, had thrust him into the attention of the universe's most formidable queen. Over the next few days, Eli learned that palace life was both fascinating and terrifying. Every move was watched, every word analyzed. The queen's advisors observed him constantly, studying his reactions, testing his knowledge, and reporting back to Sarilith. Eli discovered that the palace itself was alive with advanced technology, responding to the thoughts and movements of its inhabitants. Doors opened automatically, lights shifted with moods, and even the air seemed to hum with energy. Despite his fear, Eli found moments of wonder. He learned to navigate the floating walkways, marveled at the libraries containing knowledge spanning thousands of planets, and even shared human engineering concepts with curious scholars. He realized that humans' cleverness, our ability to improvise, to think creatively, was something the Zorathians admired, even if they found our behavior unpredictable. Yet the queen's attention remained relentless. Every time he entered a room, her eyes found him. Every conversation was laced with subtle tests, teasing questions, and pointed compliments. Eli could not move without considering how she might interpret his actions. Even meals became a delicate dance of protocol and unspoken rules. Then came the first formal ceremony. Eli was invited to the Hall of Pledges, a sacred chamber where Zorathians celebrated loyalty and honor. He did not know it, but the accidental gesture he had performed in his first meeting had set the stage for this event. The moment he entered, the hall fell silent. Attendants, nobles, and scholars turned to him. Queen Sarilith descended gracefully to meet him in the center of the hall. "You have brought humans' ingenuity to my court," she announced, her voice echoing in the chamber. "And you have done so while demonstrating a courage and spirit that is exceptional. Today you are honored." Eli's mind raced. Honored? What did that mean? He could barely process the words before a ceremonial ribbon was placed across his chest, a symbol of respect, trust, and most alarmingly, commitment. The crowd erupted in applause, and Eli felt a strange mixture of pride and terror. Back in his chamber that night, Eli reflected on everything. He had not planned this. He had not wanted attention from an alien queen, much less to accidentally pledge himself to her. Yet he realized humans had something Zorathians did not fully understand: the ability to act without fear, to take risks, and to improvise in ways that defied expectation. Perhaps that had been the reason the queen saw him differently from everyone else. And yet, despite the admiration and the honors, Eli knew one thing clearly: there was no easy way out. He was now deeply entangled in the life of a being whose power and influence spanned worlds. And if he made the wrong move, the consequences would be catastrophic, not just for him, but potentially for all of humanity. He sank onto the bed, staring at the floating lights above him. He could not escape, not yet, but maybe, just maybe, he could survive. And perhaps in the process, he could show the Zorathians why humans were not to be underestimated. Eli Turner, the accidental suitor of the alien queen, had just begun his journey. Eli Turner had survived the first days of palace life, but survived was a generous word. Every hour brought a new test, a new social trap, or a strange ritual he barely understood. Queen Sarilith's attention was constant, her eyes following him like sunlight across the palace floors. At first, he had been terrified. He had read enough reports to know that displeasing a Zorathian ruler could have severe consequences. But now, after a few days, fear had given way to something more complicated: curiosity. The palace was alive. Eli had come to understand that the very walls, floors, and ceilings were part of an intricate network of technology and biology. Doors opened before he even touched them. Lights shifted according to his mood, or perhaps according to the queen's perception of his mood. Some corridors seemed endless, yet somehow led exactly where he needed to go. It was dizzying, fascinating, and deeply intimidating all at once. Eli's mornings began with lessons in Zorathian customs. Attendants taught him the proper ways to move, speak, and even breathe in the presence of the queen. Zorathians communicated through words, subtle gestures, and telepathic signals. Eli quickly realized that one small mistake could be misinterpreted as defiance, arrogance, or worse, betrayal. And yet, he also discovered that Zorathians were deeply curious about humans. During one lesson, a scholar named Valera asked him to explain how humans built engines that could survive in space. Eli described the principles of thrust, energy, and redundancy. He showed simple diagrams he had drawn with his own hands. Valera's eyes widened with fascination. Humans improvise solutions even when conditions are unpredictable, she said. Your methods are unique, ingenious. Eli smiled, proud for a moment. Humans were clever, he thought. Maybe that was why he had survived the first days. Where the Zorathians relied on precise calculations, humans relied on intuition, creativity, and improvisation. It was messy, but often effective. Still, curiosity could not erase fear. Eli never forgot that Queen Saralith's gaze could pierce through walls, floors, and even thoughts. Her attention was a double-edged sword. He had come to understand that the protection she offered also meant constant observation. It was during the second week that Eli had his first real encounter with politics. The Queen called him to a meeting in the council hall. The room was enormous, with high ceilings and floating platforms where senior Zorathians took their seats. Eli felt the weight of hundreds of alien eyes on him as he stepped forward. "You have shown humans ingenuity," Queen Saralith began, her voice both soft and commanding. "Yet your presence here is unusual. You must understand our customs fully before you can contribute to decisions of importance." Eli nodded, trying to appear confident. "I'll do my best, Your Majesty. I only wish to help." A council member, tall and stern, spoke next. "Your Majesty, humans are unpredictable. Their minds do not function as ours do. We must be cautious. This guest could be dangerous if left unchecked." Saralith's eyes narrowed. "Dangerous or enlightening?" She turned to Eli. "Tell me, human, why do your people survive where others fail? How do you face challenges so differently?" Eli thought carefully. "Humans adapt. We face problems with limited resources and we find solutions that are unexpected. Sometimes we fail, but we keep trying. Maybe that is why we survive." The council murmured among themselves. Eli noticed nods and whispered phrases in a language he did not understand. He had no idea if he had pleased them or made things worse. But Saralith smiled. "Humans' resilience is remarkable. Eli, I believe you can teach us much. I want you to observe, participate, and learn. But you must also be careful. Not all in this court value what you bring." That night, Eli walked through the palace gardens, trying to make sense of his place. The gardens were unlike anything he had ever seen. Trees with translucent leaves glowed softly. Flowers opened and closed in patterns as if they were breathing. Streams of liquid light flowed like water, bending around stone bridges and sculpted rocks. It was beautiful and alien, and Eli felt small beneath the alien stars above. As he walked, he realized something. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but that unpredictability was also a strength. If he could combine human intuition with Zorathian logic, he might carve out a space for himself, one where he was more than a curiosity or a captive. The next day, Eli's opportunity arrived sooner than expected. A technical problem had arisen in the palace. A transport platform that connected two towers had malfunctioned, leaving one section isolated. The Queen called Eli to observe. He approached the platform carefully, noting the intricate design. Zorathian engineers had clearly designed it with precision, but they had overlooked one variable, the human factor. Eli knelt, examining the controls. "If you adjust the energy flow slightly and recalibrate the sensors for movement patterns, it should stabilize," he explained. The lead engineer looked skeptical. "This is not how we do things." Eli smiled faintly. "Maybe it's not about how you do things. Maybe it's about solving the problem." After a tense moment, the engineer followed Eli's instructions. The platform hummed to life, lights flashing as it stabilized. The Queen watched silently, her eyes reflecting the glow of the platform. "Well done," she said simply. "You see the world differently. That is valuable." Word of Eli's success spread quickly. Scholars, engineers, and even minor nobles began approaching him with questions, seeking his insight. He discovered that humans' adaptability was fascinating to the Zorathians. They had never encountered a species that solved problems in ways so unpredictable, so outside their calculated methods. But success brought new dangers. One morning, Eli overheard a conversation between two council members. "This human grows too influential," one whispered. "We cannot allow him to teach our people to question tradition. The Queen's fascination blinds her, but we cannot ignore the threat." Eli felt a chill. He realized that palace life was not just about etiquette or surviving the Queen's gaze. It was politics, intrigue, and power struggles. And while he had allies, he also had enemies. Over the next few days, Eli balanced learning Zarathian customs with sharing human methods. He taught them simple engineering tricks, how to improvise a repair when supplies were low, how to think creatively under pressure. In return, they shared knowledge of energy systems, levitation technology, and medical advancements far beyond anything on Earth. Eli marveled at the exchange. Humans and Zarathians were different, but the combination of their strengths could be extraordinary. Yet, through it all, the Queen's attention never wavered. Sarilith visited him frequently, asking questions, observing his methods, and occasionally testing his responses in subtle ways. Eli learned to expect her presence, though he could never anticipate her reactions. She was unpredictable, brilliant, and terrifyingly intelligent. One evening, after a long day of lessons and experiments, Eli sat in the palace observatory, gazing at Virelia's twin moons. The Queen approached silently, her steps soundless on the smooth floor. "You have done well," she said. "The court respects you." "Yet there are those who still doubt your worth." Eli nodded. "I understand, I just hope I can help." Sarilith smiled faintly. "You do more than help. You remind us that courage, creativity, and unpredictability are not weaknesses, they are strengths. You are human, and that is extraordinary." Eli felt a mixture of pride and fear. To be praised by the Queen was an honor, yes, but it also meant he could never relax. Every move, every decision, every word was scrutinized. Yet deep down, he knew that humans had survived not by avoiding danger, but by facing it with ingenuity and courage. Perhaps that was why he had not only survived in the palace, but earned a place in the eyes of the most powerful being on Virelia. The night deepened, and Eli finally returned to his chamber. He lay on the bed, exhausted yet unable to sleep. He realized something profound. Humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and resilient, and that combination was precisely what the Zarathians needed. He might have been trapped, observed, and even controlled in some ways, but he had a purpose. And if he could navigate the palace, understand the politics, and survive the Queen's constant attention, he might just turn his accidental entanglement into an advantage, not only for himself, but for all of humanity. Eli Turner, the human who had unintentionally won the alien Queen's heart, was learning to thrive in a world far beyond Earth. And though danger lurked behind the palace's shimmering walls, he understood that human ingenuity might just be the key to survival, and even influence, in the Zarathian court. Eli Turner had grown used to the rhythms of palace life, but he soon realized that familiarity could be dangerous. The Zarathian court was a place of both wonder and subtle peril. Every smile might hide a trap, every compliment could be a test, and nothing was more unpredictable than Queen Sarilith herself. One morning, Eli was summoned to the Grand Hall of Challenges. The hall was enormous, with translucent walls that glimmered like water and platforms that floated above the ground. It was a ceremonial space, where the Queen tested those she considered important. Eli's stomach churned. He had never been summoned to such a place, and the sheer scale of it made him feel small, even though he knew his human ingenuity had earned him respect in the court. As he entered, he saw Queen Sarilith standing at the center of the hall. Her presence seemed to bend the light around her, making her shimmer like a living constellation. "Eli Turner," she said, her voice calm but commanding, "you have adapted well to our court, yet adaptability alone is not enough. You must demonstrate courage, intelligence, and creativity. You must prove why humans are worthy of my attention." Eli swallowed. I will do my best, Your Majesty," he said. His words felt small in the vast hall. The Queen smiled faintly. "Your best will be tested immediately." From the shadows, 3 Zarathian attendants appeared, carrying devices Eli did not recognize. They looked like cubes of metal and crystal humming with faint energy. "These are the trials of insight," Sarilith explained. You must solve each challenge using only your mind, your instincts, and what you have learned about both humans and Zorathians. Fail, and you will face consequences. Succeed, and you will earn honor and influence in my court. Eli's heart raced. Consequences. He could only hope they were not as harsh as they sounded. The first trial was the puzzle of movement. A platform floated above a pit filled with shimmering energy. Lights on the platform indicated a path, but the pattern shifted unpredictably. Eli had to navigate the platform without touching the energy below. He stepped forward carefully, analyzing the lights. In human terms, it seemed chaotic, but he noticed a pattern, subtle repetitions that others might not see. Using logic and intuition together, he timed his steps perfectly. When he reached the other side, the platform glowed green, signaling success. Eli exhaled, his pulse still racing. Sarilith's eyes twinkled. Good, you see patterns where others see chaos. This is a strength. The second trial was the challenge of knowledge. A series of panels appeared, displaying Zorathian symbols and equations. Eli had to replicate their effects using human reasoning and limited instructions. The symbols shifted constantly, requiring him to adapt quickly. He paused, thinking aloud, if these patterns are energy flows, then adjusting the input gradually should stabilize them. He began manipulating the controls, observing the effects and improvising. Minutes passed, and finally, the panels glowed, signaling completion. Eli felt a rush of triumph. Humans thrived on problem-solving, and he had just shown it to the Queen. Sarilith stepped closer. You are clever, but cleverness alone is not enough. Courage will define you. The third trial was the test of courage. A chamber opened, revealing a long corridor lined with translucent walls. Beyond the walls, shadows moved, shapes Eli could not identify. The chamber emitted low hums, and the air felt thick with energy. Walk the corridor, Sarilith instructed. Your senses must guide you. Fear will deceive you. Trust your mind and your instincts. Eli's first step was hesitant, but he focused on his breathing and observations. He noticed subtle changes in light and energy shifts indicating safe paths. Shadows loomed, but they were illusions, designed to distract and confuse. With careful steps and steady nerves, he navigated the corridor. When he emerged at the other side, the chamber glowed with a soft, welcoming light. Sarilith's smile was almost unreadable. You are human, she said, and humans are strange in their courage. You do not avoid danger, yet you do not act recklessly. You see what others ignore. That is why you endure. Eli felt a surge of pride. He had not only survived the challenges, but had impressed the Queen. Yet he knew these trials were more than games, they were lessons. Sarilith was testing not just his skills, but his understanding of Zorathian values, his patience, and his ability to adapt under pressure. After the trials, Eli was escorted to a private chamber. The Queen entered later that evening, moving silently as if she had appeared from the air itself. You have done well today, she said. Few outsiders complete the trials of insight. You have shown ingenuity, courage, and perception, yet this is only the beginning. There are forces in this court that seek to undermine me, and by extension, you must learn quickly, human, for the challenges ahead will not be controlled, and failure is not always measured by success in a hall of trials. Eli nodded, trying to keep his voice steady. I understand, Your Majesty. I will do whatever I can to help. Sarilith studied him for a moment. Do not underestimate yourself. Your mind and spirit are rare. Many species underestimate humans, and that is their mistake. Over the next few days, Eli observed the Queen's court closely. Rival factions whispered in corners, scholars debated fiercely, and the palace attendants moved with quiet precision, always alert. Eli realized that his presence had shifted the dynamics. Some viewed him as a threat, others as a symbol of hope and ingenuity. The Queen's favor was both a shield and a spotlight. One afternoon, Eli was approached by Valera, the scholar who had first been curious about human engineering. Eli, she said softly, there are those here who do not wish you well. They see your influence as dangerous. You must be cautious. Yet you have the Queen's favor. That is powerful. You must use it wisely. Eli nodded. I will, but I need to learn more about these factions. If I am to survive and help the Queen, I need to understand their motives. Valera smiled faintly. Then observe carefully, listen, and do not let fear guide you. Humans have a way of seeing what others overlook. The next challenge came unexpectedly. A minor faction, unhappy with Eli's rising influence, attempted to sabotage one of the palace's experimental transport devices. Eli discovered the malfunction before it could cause harm. Using a combination of human improvisation and the Zorathian instructions he had studied, he repaired the device quickly. The queen observed silently from a distance, her expression calm but intense. "You see possibilities others ignore," she said later. "This is why humans are extraordinary. You do not fear failure. You learn from it and act." That evening, Eli reflected on his progress. The trials had taught him more than just the queen's expectations. They had shown him the intricacies of Zorathian society, its strengths, its weaknesses, and the delicate balance of power. Humans might be outsiders, but human ingenuity, adaptability, and courage had earned him a place in this world. He realized that survival was not enough. To thrive, he needed to understand the system, anticipate threats, and continue to prove the value of human perspective. Days later, Sarilith summoned Eli once more. "You have done well in controlled trials," she said. "Now you must face a trial without rules. The situation is not hypothetical. You will see the court's rivals in action. You will observe their plots and adapt. This is a test of your perception, courage, and initiative." Eli's pulse quickened. This was not a controlled environment. Real consequences awaited him. Yet beneath his nervousness, a spark of determination ignited. Humans thrived in uncertainty. It was their greatest strength. The queen gestured, and Eli followed her into a side corridor leading to the heart of the court. From hidden balconies, he observed whispered meetings, secret exchanges, and subtle maneuvers of influence. One faction tried to spread rumors, another attempted to gain favor through gifts and flattery. Eli analyzed patterns, predicting their next moves. He realized he could not stop every plot, but he could anticipate threats and advise the queen strategically. When he returned to Sarilith, she studied his report. "You see clearly," she said. "Many species fail to notice deception until it is too late. You are human, you notice. You adapt, that is why you endure and why you will continue to matter here." Eli smiled faintly. The queen's words were more than praise, they were a warning and a guide. He understood now that human qualities, curiosity, ingenuity, courage, and perception, were rare in the galaxy. Zorathians admired them, feared them, and depended on them in ways he had only begun to understand. As he left the queen's chambers, Eli felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. The trials had revealed much, but they had also revealed the stakes. Survival in the palace was no longer about etiquette or compliance. It was about strategy, insight, and courage, qualities humans possessed in abundance, even if Zorathians did not fully understand them. And Eli Turner, the human who had accidentally won the heart of the alien queen, was ready to prove just how extraordinary humans could be. Eli Turner had grown accustomed to the rhythm of palace life, but a new tension filled the air. Whispers in the halls, exchanged glances between council members, and subtle gestures of warning told him that something significant was approaching. The Zorathian court was usually elegant, almost serene in its operations, but now the undercurrent of danger was unmistakable. Queen Sarilith summoned Eli early one morning. The chamber was vast, but today it seemed heavier, more urgent. "Eli," she said, her voice steady but tinged with concern, "you have learned to navigate our trials and observe our court. Now you must face a real test. A coalition of rival factions seeks to overthrow me. They will act soon. Your insight and ingenuity may decide the outcome." Eli's pulse quickened. He had faced challenges and trials designed by the queen, but this was different. The stakes were not ceremonial, they were real. "I understand, Your Majesty," he said, keeping his voice calm even as adrenaline surged. "What must I do?" "Observe, plan, and act," Sarilith said. "You will not face this alone. Certain allies you have earned through your ingenuity will assist you. But much depends on your creativity. Humans have a talent for thinking beyond rules. That talent may save us." Eli nodded, determined. He understood the weight of responsibility. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy, seen as impulsive and fragile. But his ingenuity, adaptability, and courage were precisely what could save the queen and her empire. The first sign of trouble came that evening. Eli was in the observation tower, scanning the city below with the help of advanced Zorathian sensors. Lights flickered in unusual patterns on several floating platforms, a signal of coordinated movement. Eli's mind raced. If these signals were connected, it could mean an organized attack. Using what he had learned about Zorathian energy flows, he traced the source of the activity. Valera, he said quickly, calling over the scholar, these patterns indicate more than coincidence. Someone is planning a coordinated strike on the palace. We need to warn the queen and prepare defenses immediately. Valera's eyes widened. I feared this would happen. The rival factions are bold, but to anticipate their moves, you are remarkable, Eli. Together, they alerted the queen. Sarilith rose from her throne, her presence commanding immediate attention. The human's insight proves invaluable, she announced. Eli Turner will coordinate the palace's defenses alongside our engineers. Prepare yourselves. The time for planning is over. Eli stepped into the control chamber, surrounded by Zarathian engineers and advisors. He studied the schematics of the palace's energy grids, levitation platforms, and transport systems. We need to anticipate their paths, he explained. They will try to disrupt transportation first, then cut power to key defensive systems. If we reroute energy and create redundancies, we can protect the palace and prevent chaos. The engineers were hesitant. This is unconventional, one murmured. Eli smiled faintly. Humans were often considered reckless because of their unpredictability, but unpredictability could also be an advantage. Unconventional, he said, is sometimes the only way to survive. Together, they devised a strategy. Energy flows were rerouted to create redundant pathways, ensuring that even if part of the system was disabled, the palace would remain operational. Levitation platforms were adjusted to prevent sabotage, and sensors were recalibrated to detect intruders before they could approach critical areas. Night fell, and the city of Violia grew quiet, but the quiet was deceptive. Shadows moved swiftly across platforms, signaling the start of the attack. Eli observed the enemy's approach with the queen and her advisors. They are testing us first, he noted. Their initial strike is a probe. If we respond correctly, we can predict their full strategy. When the first wave arrived, Eli's plan worked. Sensors detected the intruders before they could interfere with the palace's defenses. Energy fields rerouted automatically, levitation platforms adjusted, and traps designed by human improvisation disrupted their formation. The rival factions were caught off guard by responses they had not anticipated. Sarilith watched silently, her expression unreadable. Then, as the second wave advanced, Eli demonstrated the next human skill, adaptability under pressure. Some of the intruders bypassed the first traps. Eli quickly recalculated energy distributions and instructed engineers to deploy secondary barriers. Within minutes, the palace's defenses held firm. By dawn, the final wave had been repelled. The Queen's palace remained intact, and the rival factions were forced to retreat. Eli felt a surge of relief, but he knew the victory was not complete. It was a beginning. You have done well, Sarilith said later, in the quiet of the observation tower. Your insight, courage, and adaptability have preserved the palace and our people. Few outsiders could have succeeded in this situation. Humans are extraordinary. Eli nodded, humbled but proud. I only did what humans do, Your Majesty. We face challenges, learn quickly, and act. Sometimes we fail, but sometimes we survive, and in doing so, we can achieve more than expected. Sarilith studied him closely. Your people's unpredictability is their strength. You think beyond rules, see what others ignore, and act when necessary. That is why you succeeded, and that is why you are here not merely as a guest, but as an ally. The aftermath of the battle brought new opportunities. Scholars and engineers who had once been skeptical of Eli now sought his guidance. He began collaborating on new defense systems, combining human improvisation with Zarathian precision. Every solution he offered seemed to inspire others, showing that humans could contribute meaningfully on an interstellar scale. Eli also learned something unexpected. The Queen trusted him. Not only had he survived her trials, but he had proven himself in real conflict. Sarilith began consulting him directly on strategic matters, asking his opinion on potential threats and new initiatives. Eli realized that his accidental entanglement with the Queen had turned into a position of influence he could never have imagined. Yet Eli remained cautious. The rival factions had not disappeared, they had merely retreated. Their motives and ambitions were clear: power, control, and influence over the Queen. Eli knew that staying one step ahead would be essential. His human traits, creativity, courage, and adaptability would continue to be tested. One evening, after a long day of strategy and planning, Eli walked through the palace gardens. The twin moons of Violia glimmered above, casting soft light on translucent flowers and glowing streams. He paused, reflecting on the past weeks. He had arrived expecting a simple diplomatic mission. Instead, he had become a key figure in an alien empire, navigating court intrigue, surviving trials, and now playing a critical role in defending the queen herself. Velara joined him, smiling faintly. "You have changed perceptions," she said. "Humans are no longer seen as outsiders, but as partners. The Queen values your insight. Your people's strengths are recognized. This is extraordinary." Eli nodded. "I never expected this. But I see now, humans can be powerful not just through force, but through thinking, adapting, and acting courageously. Perhaps that is the real strength our species has to offer." Velara looked at him thoughtfully. "And the Queen trusts you. That is rare. Few have her confidence, even fewer outsiders." Eli felt the weight of her words. Trust from Sarilith was both an honor and a responsibility. It meant that his actions now had far-reaching consequences, not just for himself, but for the palace, the queen, and perhaps even the galaxy. The next morning, Eli was summoned once more. Sarilith greeted him with a calm but firm expression. "The palace stands," she said. "Thanks to your insight and courage, my rule remains secure, for now. But remember, humans' adaptability is your greatest strength. Use it wisely. The galaxy will test you again, and perhaps soon." Eli bowed respectfully. "I will, Your Majesty." Humans have survived by thinking, adapting, and facing challenges head-on. That will not change here. Sarilith's eyes softened just slightly. "You are not just human, Eli Turner. You are extraordinary, and that is why you endure in my court. Never forget it." As he left her chambers, Eli felt a mixture of pride and determination. He had survived the attack, proved humans' value, and earned the Queen's trust. But he knew the journey was far from over. Challenges would continue to come, but humans had a way of thriving even in the most unexpected circumstances. And Eli Turner, the human who had unintentionally won the heart of the alien queen, had shown that courage, ingenuity, and adaptability could triumph even against overwhelming odds. For the first time since arriving on Violia, Eli felt a sense of purpose. He was no longer merely a guest, an outsider, or a curiosity. He was a key figure in the palace, a living example of human resilience and creativity. And he knew that as long as he stayed true to those qualities, he could not only survive, but shape the future of the Zarathian Empire itself. The morning sun rose over Violia, casting a soft glow on the shimmering crystal towers of the palace. Eli Turner stood on the observation balcony, staring at the city below. The attack from the rival factions had been repelled, the palace secured, and the queen safe, but the experience had changed him. He no longer felt like an outsider. Humans were clever, courageous, and adaptable, and he had proven it to the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Yet, the palace was still alive with whispers. Some council members had not forgiven him for their embarrassment during the attack. Others, secretly admiring his ingenuity, now sought his guidance. Eli knew that trust, like influence, had to be maintained carefully. One wrong step could undo everything. Queen Sarilith appeared silently beside him. "You have proven humans' value," she said, her voice calm and steady. "But survival is not the same as influence. To secure your place and the future of your people, you must take initiative. Your actions in the coming days will define how humans are viewed across this empire." Eli nodded. "I understand, Your Majesty. I am ready." The first test came quickly. A council faction, still resentful, attempted to manipulate palace logistics, threatening to disrupt trade routes essential to the empire's stability. Eli reviewed the schematics, noticing subtle inconsistencies that others had overlooked. With a combination of human ingenuity and Zarathian technology, he devised a solution. A network of automated transport redundancies that ensured trade would continue smoothly even if sabotage occurred again. The faction's attempt failed spectacularly, and Eli's success further cemented his reputation. Scholars, engineers, and minor nobles began seeking him out, asking for advice and insights. Humans were no longer viewed as fragile outsiders, they were respected partners. Eli realized that ingenuity, courage, and adaptability were not just survival tools, they were powerful weapons in a world of politics and strategy. Queen Sarilith, observing his growing influence, decided to formalize his role. One afternoon, she summoned him to the Grand Hall of Pledges, a ceremonial chamber where loyalty and honor were celebrated. The hall was vast, with light streaming through translucent walls, illuminating the floating platforms. Eli's heart pounded with anticipation. "Eli Turner," Saralith began, her voice echoing across the chamber, "you have faced trials, defended this palace, and proven humans' worth. Today I recognize your contribution and your place within my court. You are no longer merely a guest. You are an advisor, a strategist, and a symbol of human ingenuity." Eli's mind raced. This was more than honor, it was influence. He could guide decisions, protect his people, and continue to demonstrate humans' value on an interstellar scale. He bowed deeply. "I am honored, Your Majesty. I will serve faithfully and use my skills to support you and this empire." The Queen's smile was faint but genuine. "Humans are unpredictable, resourceful, and bold. That unpredictability is your strength. Remember it. Use it wisely. You are not only my ally, you are a bridge between our species. Through you, humans may earn their place in the stars." The ceremony concluded with a symbolic gesture. Eli placed his hand on a crystalline tablet which glowed softly, signifying his official role in the court. Around him, the council members and advisors watched in silence. Some were impressed, others wary. But all understood that Eli Turner's presence had permanently altered the balance of influence in the palace. Over the following weeks, Eli worked closely with the Queen and her advisors. He introduced new strategies, combining human improvisation with Zarathian precision. Trade routes were optimized, energy systems enhanced, and defensive measures strengthened. Every success further solidified humans' reputation as capable, innovative, and courageous. But influence also brought responsibility. Eli began mediating disputes between council factions, using logic and fairness to prevent conflicts from escalating. His human perspective, valuing adaptability and creative solutions over rigid tradition, often resolved problems that had stymied the court for decades. Slowly, the palace itself began to reflect a new approach, one that embraced collaboration, ingenuity, and courage. One evening, Eli walked through the palace gardens, reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. The twin moons glimmered above, casting soft light on translucent flowers and streams of glowing liquid. He thought about Earth, his home, and the people he had left behind. He knew that his work here could protect not just the Queen, but also humanity's future in the galaxy. Valera appeared beside him. "You have changed more than perceptions," she said. "You have changed hearts." The Queen's trust, the court's respect, all of it stems from your courage and ingenuity. Humans are no longer outsiders. They are valued allies. Eli smiled faintly. "I never imagined I would be here doing this." But humans have a way of surviving and sometimes thriving in situations others cannot imagine. Perhaps this is our greatest strength. Valera nodded. "Indeed, and you have shown it well." Days later, a delegation from a neighboring star system arrived, seeking an audience with the Queen. Eli accompanied them, serving as a human ambassador. He explained Earth's technology, culture, and values, while also demonstrating how humans could collaborate with Zarathians. The delegation was impressed, and Eli realized that humans' reputation in the galaxy was growing, thanks to courage, ingenuity, and adaptability. The Queen watched him during the meeting, her expression unreadable but her gaze approving. "You are more than an advisor," she said later. "You are a symbol. Humans are clever, brave, and unpredictable, and that is why they endure. Through you, my court sees the value of your species. You have done what few could. You have earned respect not by force, but by intellect and courage." Eli felt a surge of pride, tempered by humility. He had come to Violia expecting a simple mission. Instead, he had become a key figure in an alien empire, demonstrating humanity's worth on a galactic stage. He realized that humans had a unique ability to face uncertainty, adapt quickly, and act with courage. That ability had saved the palace, earned the Queen's trust, and ensured humanity a place in the stars. As weeks turned into months, Eli continued to solidify his role. He introduced programs to train young Zarathians in creative problem-solving, blending human improvisation with Zarathian precision. He advised the Queen on interstellar diplomacy, showing how humans' perspective could enhance strategy and negotiation. With every success, humans gained respect, and Eli's accidental entanglement with the queen became a story of collaboration and achievement rather than misunderstanding. One night, the queen summoned Eli to the observation balcony. The city below was peaceful, lights twinkling like stars reflected on water. Sarilith stood silently, her presence commanding yet calm. "You have done more than survive," she said. "You have transformed perceptions. Humans are no longer underestimated. You are their representative, their bridge to this empire. Your ingenuity, courage, and adaptability have secured not only your place, but the respect of all who witness your actions." Eli bowed, humbled. "I only did what humans do. We adapt, we face challenges, and we try to find solutions. I am grateful for the trust you have placed in me." Sarilith's eyes softened. "And that trust is well placed. Humans have a spirit that few understand. Through your actions, you have proven that spirit can shape the future. You are not merely a visitor, you are a partner, a guide, and an example of what humans can achieve." Eli felt a quiet determination. He knew the journey was far from over, but for the first time he felt a profound sense of purpose. Humans were clever, courageous, and adaptable. Those qualities had earned him a place in the palace, respect across the court, and recognition from one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. In that moment, Eli understood a truth he had only glimpsed before. Humans were extraordinary not because of strength or numbers, but because of their resilience, ingenuity, and courage. They could thrive where others faltered, see solutions where others saw chaos, and act decisively when hesitation could mean failure. And now, on Vierlia, with the Queen's trust and the court's respect, Eli Turner was living proof of that truth. As he looked at the glowing city below, he realized that what had started as an accidental pledge, one clumsy, unintentional gesture, had become a turning point. Humans had found their place among the stars, not through conquest or force, but through ingenuity, courage, and the simple, enduring ability to adapt. Eli smiled faintly. There was no escape from the palace, no simple return to Earth. And yet he would not have wanted it any other way. He had gained something far greater, a purpose, a voice, and a chance to show the galaxy the extraordinary potential of humanity. The Queen's presence beside him was calm and steady, a reminder that humans and Zorathians could achieve something remarkable together. Eli felt a surge of determination. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them with the same courage and ingenuity that had brought him this far. Humans had survived, and now, in the heart of the Zorathian Empire, they would thrive. Eli Turner, the human who had accidentally won the alien queen's heart, had not only survived, he had shown that humanity's greatest strengths could reshape the universe itself. And in that shimmering palace under twin moons, humanity's place among the stars was secure.